Good day, YouTubers. If you'd been following my channel, you'd know that a couple of weeks ago I found that my fuel tank had sprung a leak. Given the corrosion on the fuel tank, it may have been that it had been leaking for a long time, but so slowly that it never pooled up. It may have just gotten worse, or it may be the fact that that was the first time since I've owned the boat that it actually sat and did nothing for 3 months while I did a lot of modifications to it, and that gave it time to pool up. Because usually it's out every couple of weeks, weather permitting. So anyway, fuel tank was really cactus, a lot of corrosion in it. I had a bit of a look at the fuel tank when I took it out and spotted a couple of bad patches of corrosion, but when I looked at the video I'd taken of doing that job, I thought, gee, that fuel tank's in a bad way. I think I want a new one. I hunted around to find someone who could reliably weld up a good fuel tank, and I came across these guys at Aquamaster. They make aluminium boats and fuel tanks and all that sort of stuff, and they're not very far from my place. They're about 20 minutes drive away on a good run, 25, 30 on a bad run. So I was pretty happy with that. I went down and saw them, talked to the owner, Tom. He's a really nice bloke. In the finish, he wanted to test the tank just to make sure what it was like, in case it was worth repairing. And then we agreed that it just wasn't worth repairing, best to get a new one. So not only did I get a new tank, I got a bigger tank. This one should hold around 200 litres. More on that at the end of the video. Well, that's the old tank.
Yes, it is, yep.
How was it?
It was pretty terrible. We had quite a bit of pitting, so on the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
Mainly on the sides. There was too many holes to repair, so you can repair these. You've got to degas them to be able to weld, but there's just too much. Even all these other little spots that aren't holes yet, as soon as you put there into here and start cleaning it all off, they become holes. So the salt sort of is holding itself together. But as soon as you expose all that, they all start. So there was probably, without counting, there'd be over 50 like proper holes. And we've just determined that it's just too far gone to fix. The odd, one or two you can patch up and get an extra life out of it. But this is just too far gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't have a real good look at the tank, but when I was editing the last video on it, I looked at it and I thought, gee, I don't think I want that fixed.
No, and we sort of thought the same thing. It's just not worth fixing it and then bringing it back in a few months if there was to be any other holes that were found after the fact. It's just not worth it, taking it in and out of the boat. So what we've done is we've built you a new one. So we've basically built a brand new tank to mimic this tank. However, it's a little bit wider, and that's actually a bit taller as well in this section, so you'll have extra capacity.
You got the measurements.
Yeah, we sure did. Sure did.
Well, we've got 3 baffles in this one, is it?
Yeah, you'll have 3 in that one.
I can see that.
Yeah, you can see the penetration. Yep. So you have 3 baffles in here. This breather runs all the way to the front of the tank, so this will be the back of the tank. This one here just sort of nubs in just slightly in here, so you would have a breather either end. And you've got your fuel pickup line. That goes down to the bottom of the tank and actually over to one of the corners. And you've got your fuel filler, and we've just placed this new fuel sender unit there.
Excellent.
Will be probably in a good location.
How thick's the walls on it?
That's 3 mil.
3 mil, yeah, I thought it was probably 3 mil. Excellent.
Yeah, we've just done these tags as per the old ones. It'll all just drop straight back in. You'll have to pre-drill some pilot holes as per the old ones and fit that.
Not a problem.
Shouldn't have any issues now. Get you back on the water and get you further.
Yeah, it sure will. That'd be great. Should, on calculation, should hold about best part of 40 litres more.
Extra, that's right.
So that's the best part of 2 hours cruising. That'd be great.
That's right. So depending on the conditions, you'll definitely be getting a much further range.
Excellent.
So
Alrighty.
It's all looking pretty good.
Beautiful. And here we have my brand new tank. It is a thing of real beauty, all nice and silver, and I'm about to ruin all that by painting it. But it has to be done because if I don't paint it, it's going to be a greater risk of corrosion. One of the things you can do is flush around it with fresh water every time you come back. But given where it is in the baseboard, it's really hard to get a good flush with fresh water, so I won't be doing that. Well, I won't be doing it as much as it needs to be. I'll do what I can, try and get a bit of fresh water around it. But I will also paint it, because that's what they're doing with all the latest baseboards. They're painting them with an epoxy paint to alleviate the risk of corrosion. Okay, kiddies, don't try this at home. This is a dual saw, especially made for drop cutting. Now, I'll just mention that I filled the tank with water and emptied it before I did this to make sure there's no residual petrol. First thing to notice, which doesn't thrill me to death, is that when they drilled the holes for the tank, they didn't drill them before they put the tank together, they drilled them after, and that's the pieces they've drilled out for fitting the pipes. Baffles welded on the side, that's fine. A couple of nice welds on them. This one here, I'd say that pipe, as in the new tank, just came in there. Just a little breather, and by the looks of it, it was only just barely through the aluminium. There's definitely haven't cut any pipe off on the inside, so it was just flush with the aluminium. They welded that in. This breather is welded to the baffles, and also has a bit of a weld up here, and oh yeah, I've cut that. Yeah, it had a bit of a weld up there on that end of it as well. The inside of the tank is perfectly shiny, as you'd expect from a tank that was kept with fuel in it all of the time, or at least all of the time since I've had it. The liquid down the bottom is leftover water. As I said earlier, I filled the tank with water and then emptied it out to make sure there was no residual fuel in it and no vapour. So I filled it right to the brim so there's no air pockets, no nothing, and then emptied it and then cut it. I used the fuel saw. Let's see, I don't know if you can still get them, but it is brilliant. It's a counter-rotating saw, so there's no kickback in it. You can drop cut into material with it. So don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing and you've got the tools to do it. Now I can measure that and get a really accurate measurement of the actual capacity of this tank, because I suspect it's not 175 litres. I took 175 litres from later models of the boat, just assuming that the fuel tank wouldn't have changed. But I'm pretty certain that this isn't 175, so they must have changed the fuel tank size a little bit later. 196, 435, 196, and 1795. So let's calculate that out. Wow, 153 litres tops. So there'll be some ullage in there. So tops 150 litres usable. Could be less, but certainly no more by the time you allow for the ullage. You're not going to pick up all the fuel in the tank. There might be, could be a little bit less, I guess, just depends how the boat's sitting in the water. My rule of thumb has always been to have a third of the tank left when I come back, what I try to achieve. That's a safety margin in case things go wrong. So I have come back and used about 100 litres, maybe 105 litres, I think is the most I've ever used. So without knowing it, I've been right on or just over my safety margin, because I had thought there was 175 litres in the tank going from later model boats. I just assumed the tank size would be the same. Anyway, it's not, and I know that now. So there we go. I hope you can see that hole through there. Now I think that that's probably gotten bigger when they pressure tested it, but that's definitely where it was leaking. And that was the major part of the corrosion that I saw on the outside. It was that. And there was this one here that also can't be far off going through, but it hasn't come through on this side. However, you can see some discolorations on this bottom here where I don't think the tank was too far from coming through. So finding it when I did and getting a new tank has been a good call, because definitely too much corrosion in this one to be worth trying to fix. Okay, you can see the original tanks had a doubler just welded in there where the fuel sensor goes. The fuel filler here doesn't quite make it through the 3 mils of plate, but it does near enough. It's just got to be in the hole and welded around. This is the fuel pickup, and I'd say what they've done here is cut it at an angle and then they've shoved it in until it touches bottom and welded it off, which is fine. The new tank's done a little bit differently. They said they put the pickup down and bent it over into one corner. So long as they've done that and secured it to the bottom, right in the very bottom of that corner, it'll be 6 of one, half a dozen the other for ullage. If it's right in the corner, the new tank might be marginally better, but we're only talking about a quarter of a litre, so it doesn't matter. One's as good as the other. I've got these straps around to help me lift the tank into the boat. And the last job I've got to do before I do that is to drill some holes in these tabs so that I can put some screws in to hold the tank in place a little bit. This was all it had in. When I took the tank out, it only had one of these screws in. I'm going to put 2 in. I don't know why they only had 1 in. All ready to be lifted into the boat now. I've got this all ready for the tank to go in now. Taking the angles off the side that were supporting the floor, because the object at the moment is to have the floor resting on the tank. And hopefully all the measurements are going to work. I'm intrigued to see what this fits. Just give me a minute to see. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, that's a problem.
What? Too big?
No. With the buckles it is.
Oh. You got to stick on the plastic.
Yeah, I've got to put it in first and see how much I need.
Oh, okay. Just put the buckle on top.
Yeah, the problem there is that it's on both sides.
Oh.
I'm going to have to take it off, I think. I might need you to take it off while I hold it. When we put it in, we'll have to slide that one up here.
What, the buckle?
The strap, because that one's only got 1 buckle on it. This has got 2.
Yeah. So what do you want me to do now?
Undo this one.
Does that go up or down?
What?
This.
Oh. Where the fuel goes in.
Yeah. Well, where does... So that doesn't go right down to the end. The floor.
No, it doesn't. No.
Right,
Oh gee, that's not going to work either.
what's that?
The buckle just won't fit.
No. Oh, I don't know why you want it. I think you should take them off anyway and store them in the boat shed for if it ever eventuates again, you've got them.
Yeah, I know, but I've got to lift it out again before I'm finished.
Or just take the buckle off and leave the strap underneath it.
Yeah, I might have to. I'll just try this. Just try putting it right up this end. See if that'll work. No, it won't. So, yeah, what you said.
That's not going to come out again?
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, shit, yep. Bugger, it's not quite down far enough. Oh,
You won't be able to put those strips back in.
hey?
The strips that you had along here.
What strips? No.
Wasn't there a aluminium or
Yeah,
metal?
they won't go back in.
No, that's what I said, they won't go back in.
No, they weren't intended to.
Oh, well, why were they there in the first place?
To hold the floor. Now the floor sits on the tank.
Oh, okay. So what's the problem there?
Problem is that this isn't far enough towards the end.
Oh,
Sitting up on this instead of sitting down on the tank. See, that's not.
can't you push the tank down a half an inch?
Yeah, actually, yeah, good thinking. No, why not? Because that's as far as it goes.
So what you'll have to do is trim a bit off the floor.
Yes, I'm going to have to make a cut halfway through the floor just where this is.
What's it made out of?
Fine.
Oh,
Dear, life wasn't meant to be easy, was it?
is that in exactly the same place as the old tank?
Yes, but it's taller
Oh.
and wider.
Yeah. I sort of thought, I said that when you were going to make it bigger, I thought, do you have to?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well.
It'd be fine if it wasn't, if that thing had been further down towards the back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, that's the bit I had to cut out of the floor to fit the fuel sensor, I hope. I'll have to take it back up to the other shed and cut some more if that's not enough, but I'm thinking that should be enough. Hopeful anyway. Last part of the job, as far as putting the tank in, is doing up the hose clamps. This is the fuel feed to the engine. Notice that all of them have two stainless steel hose clamps on them. That was what came when I got the boat. I assume Baseboard put them on, or whoever fitted the boat out put them on from the start. When you're using ordinary hose clamps, always a good idea to have two on. Now it's just this big one to do. There's only one of these, but it's a big one, and it's got a bolt through it. So once we get him done up, he won't be going anywhere. Okay, not going anywhere now. And last thing to do is to connect the wires for the fuel sensor. Now we've got a white and a black on the fuel sensor, and a red and black on the other wire. The fuel sensor is a resistor blade, so it doesn't really matter which one you connect to which. However, it's very bad practice to mix them. So I'm going to connect black to black and red to white, just so I'm not mixing colours totally. And I'll have to heat shrink that, and yeah, I think we're done then. Once I heat shrink that, it's just a matter of putting the floor down, of course, putting the seats back, and filling the tank of petrol, and it's good to go. I didn't put any of the fuel that I siphoned out of the leaky tank back in the boat. I wanted to take the opportunity to fill the tank up from empty, so I knew exactly how much fuel fitted in it. I was very pleased to see that my calculations were almost spot on. I calculated 200 litres and it came out to 198, so that was pretty good. I'm going to count those about 195 usable litres in there. Provided the boat's moving along nose up, all the fuel will be down the back of the tank, so that should be fair enough. $198. Yeah, okay, well that looks to be about it, 198 litres. Oh yeah. And we didn't have as much spillage as normal out of the tank.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And that's it for the video. The tank is fixed at last. The boat's been in dry dock, as it were, for probably a bit over 3 months now between all the modifications I've made. I got out for one short sea trial, did a little bit of crabbing, and came back to find the tank was leaking. Now all that's fixed, I've just got to wait for my MFD to arrive and it'll be back on the water as normal. In the meantime, I'll have to satisfy myself with a few trips out in the bay. I'll get some videos up on them as they happen. Until then, good fishing.